Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Divine Feminine Healers podcast. It is your host, Angelica, spiritual entrepreneur and intuitive healer. Today on the episode, I am going to talk all about this full moon in Aries, which we officially have on Thursday, October 17th, when I'm actually recording this. And I'm going to get all into it. What's going on in the stars right now? But first, I do want to acknowledge that we are in a time of transition and a dramatic change in seasons. In the Northern Hemisphere, we have switched from summer into fall. And in the Southern Hemisphere, you're going into spring. And these equinoxes, these times of deep transitions from one season to the next, are said to be really good times to undergo your own inner transformation. In the Northern Hemisphere, we're going inward, and in the Southern Hemisphere, you're looking to go outward and be more external. And this can be really hard to make that shift for yourself. I know for myself, especially in this Western world right now, it's like I love summer. I love the energy of being out and expressive. And it's hard for me to slow down. It's hard for me to go inward and to prioritize stillness and less events on my calendar, less to-dos, taking things off and being okay with just being in the present and not having things on my calendar. And I also know that when I do work with this energy and I do slow down, that I'm able to really receive the full benefits of what nature gives during this time of year, of tuning back into my intuition, receiving spiritual messages that are not always obvious, but when I'm tuned into this slower frequency, I am in tune with them and I can flow easier with life. And that's really all Ayurveda is attuning to the rhythms of nature and knowing them so well so that you can flow with life with a bit more ease and grace. You're not working against the current. There's not this forcing type of energy, which doesn't feel good for anybody, but it feels good for you. And that's why I love doing seasonal cleanses. I've been doing them for the past 10 years, and right now, our community is going through our fall cleanse. There's something so beautiful about someone committing to their own inner transformation with the cleanse because it's not for the faint-hearted. You have to make a lot of changes. You have to be willing to witness the habits that you want to let go and actually make the choice to release them. And in this alchemization of your mind, body, and spirit, you start to really see dramatic changes in your external life that beautifully start to play out just because you've made that commitment to yourself. So whether you're doing a cleanse or having your own inner type of transformation right now, I see you, and I think that commitment is so beautiful, and stick with it. I know it can be difficult. I know pausing can feel really hard in our Western world, but stay with it, and I know that the fruits of your labor will be on the other side. Now, also just October, I love that it is a month in our Western world that we can finally honor our intuition in a way that we don't feel like we have to hide it. I find like a lot of healers love this time of year, at least I do, and I have a strong Scorpio placement. I have a lot of clients and friends who have Scorpio placements. And Scorpio, I think, is a very misunderstood sign. It's a sign that has to do with our intuition and our spiritual practices and wanting deep transformation. And I love that this time of year celebrates that. We have so many different cultures that celebrate the dead, and there's a lot of souls who choose to transition during this month. It's said to be very auspicious if a soul does decide to transition during the month of October. And that's because the veil is really thin. So we have greater access to the spiritual realms. So I just also had our Reiki Masters training this week that we're finishing up. And it's really cool to see how much closer they get to their ancestors and to their guides, and being able to read those messages in those trainings is a really beautiful thing. And it's a thing that we all have access to, of course, when we do learn certain modalities, it brings us closer to them, but you do all have access for that. So take notice of those dreams, those angel numbers, those extra little voices in your head that are guiding you during your meditation practice. Start to follow those, as they can be really fruitful during this time of year, and it's okay to lean into all the witchy things. Okay, so now for this full moon in Aries. Well, Aries it's very interesting. I follow Vedic astrology, and recently I've been exploring Western astrology, and this doesn't always happen, but this full moon lands in Aries for both Vedic and Western. So I'm kind of going to give a little background on what's going on and with each astrology. So let's start with Western astrology. So in the sign of Aries, and Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's it's very headstrong. It's very let's go, push forward, motivated, fiery. And it's a lot about manifestation and destiny. That's why we incarnated on this earth, was to bring manifestations into physical reality, from vision into physicality. And this is highlighting that there is something on what your heart is desiring right now that's related to your soul's purpose, that you are being nudged in that direction right now, that is wanting you to go towards. I've heard a lot of this happening during the eclipse cycle, people questioning their jobs and wanting to change careers and their identities of what they've thought themselves as for the careers that they chose, or even certain labels like moms and things like this. So that was a good time to start questioning what are those desires. And now this full moon in Aries is really leaning us towards, okay, what's holding us back from really going into that place and taking the next step towards that and getting there. Now, what's interesting about this full moon in Aries is that it's square Mars in Cancer. And Mars and Cancer, those are like two opposing energies, right? Mars is very hot. It rules Aries and Scorpio. It's very passionate. It's very fiery. It's very impatient. It's said to be likened to the teenage boy in that sense, because it's very impulsive and likes everything to be done yesterday, but highly motivated, highly passionate. In the sign of Cancer, Cancer is super watery. It's ruled by the moon. It has to do with intuition and home and security and safety and wanting to play it safe, like the opposite energy of Mars. So when Mars is in Cancer, it's really us trying to seek safety and support. And it's us trying to reconcile with what emotions are coming up to the surface that feel to be conflicting. So you in your life might feel like, gosh, I just want to find safety and stability in my life. And yet that feels like the opposite of this impulse and desire that you have, that you're wanting to go towards. So this full moon is really highlighting us. Whatever is coming up for us emotionally needs to be healed, because it's opposing this full moon in Aries. So in order to step closer to the soul's purpose, we're going to have to understand this situation on the emotional level and heal that. What also is square this full moon in Aries is Pluto in Capricorn, which just went direct. And Pluto is the planet of transformation and death and rebirth. And it really just, when it's in the conversation of a full moon, it's going to amplify the energy of change and transformation. So something really wants to move here and push you into the first direction. And we're also seeing that kind of momentum with the Aries energy. Aries is, like I said, it's very powerful. It's very motivated. So that's what's going on in the Western world. Now, in Vedic astrology, it's also a full moon in Aries, but it's in the star sign of Ashwini, which is the first nakshatra of the zodiac. There are nakshatras are star signs. There are 26, there are 27, and Ashwini is the first one. Ashwini represents moving the body. It is also very indicative to healers, and it represents freedom, challenges, and new opportunities. So for all of my healers who are wanting to step into your soul purpose, you may be feeling this. Especially, you may be feeling like you are really called to step further into your soul's purpose, whatever stage of that. Maybe you're at the stage of, do I leave my job? Do I start to just start my own venture? Am I already in my venture? Am I looking to expand it and go to the next level? Like, we're all on different journeys with it, but what is that next step for you that is going to give you more freedom and like make you feel less restricted? Now, this always comes with challenges, of course, in order for you to fully step into and allow for that new opportunity to really arise within you. So I have some journal prompts that you can noodle on. I also post this on my Instagram at Angelica_feminine_healer. If you're not already following me there, go ahead. That's where I have all of my free resources that can be really helpful. Okay, so, one last thing that I did want to note is that also, in Western astrology, Aries is in the North Node right now. So the North Node represents our manifestations. It represents our ego. It represents what we're going towards in this lifetime. And right now it's transiting in Aries. So again, this is just highlighting that this full moon is really about where we are going and how we can align with our heart's truest desires. So the first question that I have for you is, how do you support yourself emotionally? How do you support yourself emotionally? And I think that this is a really interesting question because a lot of healers especially know how to support themselves physically, maybe even mentally, But how do you really support yourself emotionally, and getting really honest? Like, what is actually fulfillment? When do you actually feel like you process your emotions in a healthy and a safe way? Next, what did you rely on previously to support you emotionally? And this may be something that started early on in childhood that's now lingering, and you're noticing, like, how did you used to self-soothe yourself? Food, finances, leaning on a parent. This could be healthy or unhealthy things, or overusing one of these soothing mechanisms and overly relying on them. And hint, for those of you who have your natal chart pulled up, this is going to be wherever Cancer is natally in your chart. So if Cancer is in your second house, then previously you may have received emotional support from your finances, from food, from material objects. And the next question is, what kind of support do you actually need now, and how can you give that to yourself? Whenever you are going to up level in your life, and especially when you're stepping into a life of soul's purpose, you realize that you're not doing this just for the financial support, although that is totally necessary to be a human on this planet. But you're doing it because you want emotional fulfillment from it as well. You want to feel spiritually fulfilled. There's more to it than just that financial security, and you're wanting to ask for more. So how can you give yourself that support now, even if you feel like this manifestation hasn't appeared yet? And I know that's so hard, because sometimes you're like, well, if I had that, then I would have the emotional support. If I had the partner that I wanted, I would feel emotionally supported. If I had that. But the best way for us to really manifest is to be able to give that to ourselves, and to realize that we are completely worthy and have everything in our power to have that within us, with all the resources that we have now. That's the trick. And the last question is, how can this support bring you closer to your heart's truest desires? So receiving this new level of support, how can this help you get closer to your soul's purpose? This is what this full moon is all about, being able to emotionally support yourself on a deeper level. There may be an emotional situation that you have to digest that has been bringing you turmoil, that's making you stress a little bit. And being able to reflect on that and releasing that is going to bring you closer to that soul's purpose and right back on track with your direction. Now, I do want to go a little bit into soul's purpose. I think a lot of times we can really associate that with career, which can be totally true for a lot of healers. Like, we think of that as our career, right? It's what we do, and it feels so much a part of us. But career, yes, that's one sector of it, but when you choose a life of soul purpose, it just becomes a part of everything that you do. From the time that I wake up to the time I go to bed, like, I feel like I live and breathe a different life than if I were to have a different profession. So when I meditate, when I go for a nature walk, the intentionality that I have of just eating my meal is so different, because I've taken on this role as being a healer, and I love it that way. I want it to be that way. So when I say reflecting on your soul's purpose, I don't necessarily always mean highlighting the career, although some of you will feel that dramatically. This may also be highlighting how you can be in alignment, just living a life that feels very purposeful and that feels very fulfilled. All right, everyone, that is all I have for you today. If you want more wisdom, please follow me on Instagram. You can also sign up for my newsletter at angelicarosenary.com. I send out weekly energy updates, and I also give you CEO pep talks and affirmations, and I give you access to my blog. So there's a lot of goodies in there as well. So stay close with your heart's truest desires this full moon. I hope it brings you everything that you need and more. And I will see and be with you all on the podcast next week.